In the Oval Office, Donald Trump finally cornered the man he hated most, Barack Obama, ready to deliver the ultimate humiliation he had dreamed about for years. What started as Trump's long-awaited revenge quickly turned into a brutal public dismantling. Obama calmly ripped Trump's lies apart one by one until the president was left red-faced, sweating and screaming like a cornered animal. Trump's own ugly words, his hidden recordings, and his deepest hypocrisies were dragged into the light and smashed right in front of his terrified staff. By the end, the most powerful man in the world wasn't dominating. He was exposed, broken, and utterly humiliated in his own office. It was a private showdown years in the making. President Donald Trump had personally invited former President Barack Obama to the White House under the official reason of discussing national matters. Then the doors to the Oval Office swung open. Trump stood up right away, flashing that familiar sharp grin. He reached across the desk with a firm handshake, squeezing a little harder than necessary. "Barack," he said. Obama met his grip evenly. "Mr. President." No long pleasantries, no talk about the weather or family. Obama sat down in the chair facing the desk and placed his folder neatly in front of him. Before the seat even stopped creaking, Trump leaned forward, eyes locked on him. "People still ask about your birth certificate, Barack," Trump said, jumping straight in. His voice carried that mix of charm and challenge he used so well on camera. "A lot of people. They come up to me all the time and say, 'Are we really sure?' I figured since you're here, we could finally clear the air on that." The words landed heavy in the room. Two aides standing quietly along the wall froze. Trump didn't blink, waiting for the reaction he had been imagining for years. But Obama simply looked back at him, calm as ever, one hand resting on top of his folder. Trump didn't waste a second. He grabbed a thick folder from his side of the desk and slid it hard across the polished wood toward Obama. "Here, take a look at this," he said, his voice rising with energy. "These are real questions from real people. They keep asking me, 'Mr. President, was he even born here? Why all the secrecy?'" He flipped the folder open himself and started reading out loud from the top sheet. "Was his father really a Kenyan radical? Did he hide his records on purpose?" Trump looked up with a satisfied smirk, eyes locked on Obama like he'd just landed a perfect punch. Obama didn't blink, not once. He sat completely still, his face calm and steady, listening as if Trump was talking about the weather. In the corner of the room, a young aide, gripping a pen so tight his knuckles went white, kept glancing nervously at Trump. The kid's eyes flicked back and forth, clearly feeling the pressure. Everyone in the room could sense it. This wasn't just another meeting. Trump was going straight for the throat right from the start. Without saying a word, Obama opened his own folder. He pulled out two crisp documents and slid them across the desk. The first was a fresh copy of his birth certificate, complete with a bright new authentication stamp from the state of Hawaii. Right behind it came an official letter on Hawaii Department of Health letterhead dated just 2 weeks earlier, confirming every detail all over again. Obama looked Trump dead in the eyes and said evenly, "This is the 37th time you've made me bring this out, Donald." 37. Trump forced a laugh, but it sounded tight. His right hand trembled just a little as he picked up the papers, trying to play it cool. He scanned them quickly, then dropped them back on the desk like they didn't matter. "Well, I guess that clears it up." "Maybe," he added with that same cocky edge, but the small shake in his fingers gave him away. The young aide in the corner shifted his weight, eyes wide, like he couldn't believe what he was watching. Trump tried to change direction fast. He leaned back in the big chair and waved his hand. "You know what? You were always all talk up there on stage. Speeches, speeches, speeches. Me? I get things done. Big difference." Obama answered right away. No pause, no drama. "Getting things done is easy, Donald. Getting the right things done, that's the harder part." The words hit like a slap. Trump's face flushed red. Without warning, he slammed his open hand down hard on the desk, the sound cracking through the room like a gunshot. "You think you're smarter than me?" he barked, half rising from his chair. The young aide jumped slightly, nearly dropping his pen. Trump's chest heaved once, eyes burning as he stared across the table. Then Obama leaned forward slightly, his voice still calm but now carrying a sharper edge. "Before you keep questioning my family and my background, Donald, maybe you should think about the example you're setting for your own daughter." Trump froze in his chair, his smirk vanishing instantly. The room went dead quiet. Obama reached into his folder, pulled out a thin transcript from a 2006 radio interview, and held it up. "You once said on air, 'If Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her.' Those are your exact words, not mine." Trump's face turned red. His mouth opened, but nothing came out at first. He looked genuinely stunned, like someone had just punched him in the gut. The young male aide in the corner gripped his pen even tighter, eyes darting between the two men. "Leave my daughter out of this," Trump finally exploded, slamming both hands on the desk as he half stood. "That's low, Barack. Real low." At that exact moment, a female aide standing near the wall, who had worked directly with Ivanka in the past, jumped at the noise. A single sheet of paper slipped from her folder and fluttered to the floor right between the two men. Obama calmly bent down, picked it up, and glanced at it. His eyebrows rose just a fraction. Without hesitation, he started reading out loud in a clear, steady voice. "This is an internal memo from 2017. It says Ivanka advised her father multiple times to drop the birther claims because they were damaging the family's reputation and hurting her own work. But the advice was ignored." He looked straight at Trump. "She warned you, Donald, in writing." Trump shot up from his chair so fast it scraped loudly across the floor. He jabbed a thick finger across the desk toward Obama, his voice booming through the Oval Office. "You're threatening my family now? You come into my office and pull this garbage?" His chest heaved, eyes wide with fury. The female aide stood frozen, her face pale, realizing everyone had just heard the memo she accidentally dropped. Obama stayed seated, completely composed, looking up at the standing president. "I'm not threatening anyone," he said, his tone calm but cutting like a knife. "I'm reminding you that your own words and decisions have followed Ivanka right into this administration. You brought her into the White House. You put her in meetings. You made her part of the story. So when you attack my family, don't act surprised when your own record gets put on the table." Every staff member in the room stood completely still. No one dared move. The young aide's mouth hung slightly open. The woman who dropped the memo looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her. Trump was breathing hard, still standing behind the desk with his face flushed red. He clearly hated losing ground and tried to flip the script one more time. "Your administration had more scandals than mine ever did," he barked, jabbing his finger toward Obama. "Benghazi, the IRS targeting people, fast and furious. You think you're some kind of saint sitting there lecturing me? Give me a damn break, Barack. At least I'm not pretending to be perfect." Obama stayed seated, completely unfazed. He reached deep into his folder and pulled out a plain sealed envelope that had stayed hidden until this exact moment. He tore it open slowly, making sure everyone could see the paper inside. Then he slid the single sheet across the polished desk toward Trump. It was an internal memo dated 2011, sent through a mutual back-channel contact. At the bottom, clearly written in Donald Trump's own handwriting, were the damning words. "This might interest you," Obama said in a calm, even tone. He picked the paper back up and began reading it out loud so the whole room could hear every single word. "I know you were born here, Barack, but it makes great TV. Keep it going. It's good for ratings and it drives the base crazy. We both know how this game works." The words landed like a bomb in the Oval Office. The young aide in the corner stopped breathing completely, his eyes wide as saucers. The female aide who had dropped the earlier memo slapped a hand over her mouth, looking like she might faint. A senior aide standing near the window, a longtime White House veteran who had seen plenty of tense meetings, couldn't hold back. He gave a small, involuntary nod and said under his breath, "I saw the original version years ago. That's real. I remember the handwriting." Trump's face went from red to almost purple. His mouth opened and closed twice before the denial exploded out of him. "That was taken completely out of context," he shouted, his voice cracking with anger and panic. "You're twisting everything like you always do. I never meant it that way. It was just talk. Just strategy. You're making this up to embarrass me in my own office." He didn't wait for a response. In a sudden burst of pure rage, Trump lunged forward across the wide desk and snatched at the paper, trying to rip it in half right there in front of everyone. His fingers grabbed the edge and started to tear. Obama's hand shot out fast and clamped down hard on Trump's wrist, stopping the motion cold. For 2 long, tense seconds, the two men stared each other down, hands locked together over the document, eyes burning with intensity. The physical contact sent a visible shock through the entire room. No one dared move or even breathe too loud. "You can tear up the paper if you want, Donald," Obama said, his voice low but razor-sharp, never rising. "But you can't tear up the truth. No matter how hard you try, it's still going to be there." He released Trump's wrist. Trump yanked his hand back like he had touched fire. His chest was heaving, and for the first time he looked genuinely rattled. At that exact second, the senior aide near the wall quietly raised his phone. He had been recording the entire confrontation on audio from the beginning. Trump's eyes darted wildly to him, then over to the bookshelf where his own hidden camera was still rolling silently. The realization hit him like a freight train. The trap he had carefully set up to humiliate Obama had completely backfired and was now capturing his own collapse on tape. The whole room stayed frozen in heavy silence, broken only by Trump's ragged breathing. The young aide looked like he wanted to disappear into the wall. The female aide was pale and shaking slightly. Even the senior aide holding the phone looked stunned by what he had just witnessed and recorded. Trump, the man who had stormed into this meeting expecting an easy victory, now stood exposed in front of his own staff. His big plan had crumbled, and the evidence of his own double game was lying right there on the desk between them. Obama slowly sat back in his chair, eyes still locked on Trump. He didn't smile. He didn't gloat. He simply let the silence do the rest of the work. Trump completely lost it. His face twisted with rage as he slammed both fists on the desk and roared at the top of his lungs, "Get out of my office right now! Get the hell out!" Spittle flew from his mouth. His eyes were wild and the veins in his neck stood out. He pointed furiously at the door like he was ordering a firing squad. Obama rose slowly from his chair, calm and deliberate, but he didn't walk toward the exit. Instead, he reached into his folder one last time and pulled out a single handwritten letter. He placed it gently on the desk, right in front of Trump. "Before I go, you should read this," he said quietly. "It's a letter from one of your former aides written in 2018. She worked closely with Ivanka. She says the birther campaign you pushed caused serious emotional damage to your daughter. She wrote that you knew it was fake but kept it going anyway because it was useful." Trump stared at the letter like it was poison. His hand started shaking as he snatched it up. The room felt like it was closing in on him. The young aide in the corner looked pale. The female aide had tears in her eyes. Everyone could see Trump's world cracking right in front of them. That was the breaking point. Trump suddenly dropped one knee onto his chair, leaning forward like a man barely holding himself together. His hands trembled violently as he waved them at his own staff. "Why is no one stopping him?" he screamed, voice cracking. "This is my office, my White House. Why the hell is everyone just standing there letting him do this to me? Do something!" No one moved, not a single person. The young aide looked down at the floor. The female aide bit her lip and stayed silent. The senior aide with the phone kept recording without flinching. The entire staff stood frozen, eyes fixed anywhere but at their boss. The silence was deafening. Obama looked straight at Trump, his voice steady and clear. "They're not stopping me, Donald, because they've heard enough lies. They've watched this for years, and today, so have you." Trump's mouth opened, but no words came out. His outstretched hand hung in the air, still shaking. Obama buttoned his jacket, turned his back on the president, and walked toward the door with the same measured steps he had when he entered. Trump stood there, one hand still awkwardly reaching out for a handshake that would never come. No one stepped forward. No one said a word. The heavy door clicked shut behind Obama. For exactly 3 seconds, the Oval Office was completely silent. Then Trump exploded with the loudest sound of the entire meeting. He let out a furious roar and slammed both fists down on the resolute desk so hard that pens, papers, and a coffee cup flew into the air. The crash echoed off the walls like a gunshot. "Damn it!" he shouted, sweeping everything off the desk in one violent motion. Documents scattered across the floor. The young aide flinched hard. The female aide took a step back. Trump stood there breathing like a wounded animal, staring at the closed door. His face was bright red, his tie crooked, and his hands still clenched into fists. The man who had started the meeting full of confidence and hidden cameras now looked completely broken in front of his own staff. The final piece of evidence Obama left behind sat on the desk, untouched. The truth had done what no shout or insult ever could. It had stripped away every defense Trump had. Barack Obama walked down the long White House hallway with the same steady, unhurried steps he had when he arrived. The marble floor echoed softly under his shoes. Secret Service agents followed a few paces behind, silent and alert. Behind him, the young male aide who had stood in the corner the entire meeting suddenly broke into a quiet run to catch up. He glanced back nervously to make sure no one else was watching, then leaned in close. "Thank you, sir," the aide whispered, his voice shaking a little. "I've never seen him like that before. No one has ever done that to him in his own office." Obama slowed just enough to look at the young man. A small, calm smile crossed his face. He didn't stop walking. "Truth doesn't need permission," he said quietly. "It just needs to be spoken." The aide nodded quickly, eyes wide with respect, and fell back as Obama continued toward the exit. Those simple words seemed to hang in the hallway long after he had passed. Back inside the Oval Office, the heavy door remained closed. Donald Trump sat alone behind the big desk, staring at the mess of papers scattered across the floor. Pens, folders, and the torn edges of documents lay everywhere. The letter from his former aide still sat untouched on the desk. Trump's tie was loose, his hair slightly messed up from running his hands through it. For a long moment he just sat there, breathing heavily, eyes unfocused. He reached for his phone with a trembling hand. His thumb hovered over the Twitter app like always. The old instinct was there. Fire off a tweet, hit back hard, change the story. But this time his finger froze. He stared at the blank screen for several seconds, something he had almost never done. No quick comeback, no angry post, just hesitation. For the first time in a long while, Donald Trump didn't know what to say. He slowly lowered the phone back onto the desk and looked out the window, the weight of the meeting pressing down on him harder than anything else that day. Later that evening, in a quiet interview at a hotel across town, Barack Obama sat relaxed in front of the camera. The host asked him about leadership in difficult times. Obama didn't mention the meeting. He didn't have to. He leaned forward slightly, his voice calm and thoughtful as always. "Leadership isn't about being the loudest person in the room," he said. "It's about being the one who's willing to stand on the truth when everyone else in the room is trying to silence it." The words carried a quiet power that felt heavier than any speech. Obama paused, then added with a small smile, "Real strength doesn't come from shouting down others. It comes from refusing to let lies become the loudest voice in the conversation." As the sun began to set over Washington, the American flag outside the White House continued to wave in the evening breeze. It wasn't some grand symbol or dramatic ending. It was simply there, moving steadily, quietly, the way truth often does. No matter how loud the arguments inside those walls had been, the flag kept flying, and the facts of the day refused to disappear. The meeting was over, but the echo of what happened in that office would stay with everyone who had witnessed it. Obama had walked in as the invited guest and left having reminded the most powerful man in the room and everyone watching that calm truth still carried more weight than noise ever could. And that was a lesson no one in the White House would forget anytime soon.